Our Across the Aisle segment tonight, Democratic National Committee Chairman Tom Perez is refusing to apologize after he said that President Trump and Republicans don't give a snip about people. He didn't say snip. Perez also challenged Trump's legitimacy as president, saying Trump didn't win this election. Take a look.
March in New York, march in Los Angeles, march in Topeka, march in Paris, march all over the world and said, Donald Trump, you don't stand for our values. That's what they said. Donald Trump, you didn't win this election. So what do we call it? Trump care? Do we call it Ryan care? Well, I'll tell you my idea, because you know what embodies their program? I don't care. I don't give a shit about people.
With me now, Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Joel, how are you?
Hi, Liz. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for being here today. Joel, you saw that video. You heard that video. It's been making the rounds on Facebook, on Twitter, on social media, all the news networks. That's the leader of your party. When you hear him say those things, when you hear him say that Republicans don't give a snip about people, he did not say snip. Are you proud of that?
Well, look, I've always been taught to address the action, not the actor, meaning, don't espouse any thoughts on what people intend and rather what their actions equate to. So, I probably wouldn't have, that's not language I would have used, and that's not what I would have said. But I do think it's important not to lose what Chairman Perez was trying to say. And I think what he was trying to say was the Republican agenda speaks for itself. When you look at President Trump's budget, the very people who he was elected to protect, right? People in the middle and in the working class who are struggling, who are looking for a hand up. And he basically spent all of his capital on his budget giving tax cuts and tax breaks to his C-suite buddies and the wealthy class and doing things to hurt the working class. I think that's what Chairman Perez was trying to say, was that those folks are left behind.
Right. Wait a second. I got to go back to something else that you said. I can't get past the first comment that you look at people's actions, not their intentions. I was taught much the same thing. Good parents from both of us, I think.
There you go.
But isn't that a double standard, though? Isn't that a double standard how liberals treat President Trump? I mean, even look at his travel ban. You're looking at his intentions, not his actions, versus looking at his actions, like you just said you're doing to Tom Perez. Isn't that a double standard?
No, President Trump, I'm looking at his actions and his intentions.
No, I mean his actions, his travel ban is legal. He took into account what the judge says in what the judge ruled about travel ban 1.0. He revised it into travel ban 2.0, but instead of looking at the text of the law, you're looking at his intentions. That's different than how you're holding Tom Perez to account.
He's 0 for 2 with the courts, but what I'll say is this, just about Chairman Perez. What's so offensive is the mean-spirited nature with which the conservative agenda seems to have unraveled. When you look at cutting Meals on Wheels, cutting community block grants, cutting programs that people actually care about. I'm somebody who grew up on food assistance programs, in part, during the time that I was growing up. Those things mean things to people, and they help people get from paycheck to paycheck. So to have the president and have the Republican Party build their agenda around tearing down those programs, that's what Chairman Perez was trying to say. He did not say it artfully, and that's not how I would have said it, but that's what he meant.
No, and I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, I guess, to the people that government assistance help. You're right. That's why we have government assistance, to help people get a leg up when they are less fortunate, when they need that extra assistance. That's why we have it. It's not factually correct, I don't think, that Meals on Wheels is cut. That's a state block grant. The states can decide what to do with that money. The federal government is not in charge of cutting that. But I mean, when you're talking about mean-spirited here, Tom Perez stood up there at that podium and he said, Republicans don't give a snip about people. Joel, I'm a Republican. He basically told me that I'm cold-hearted and mean. That's mean-spirited.
Well, I would just challenge you, and I would challenge any other Republican to say that you reject the Republican agenda of cutting programs for people who need them, giving tax breaks to the wealthy class as opposed to giving a hand up to people in the working class. Again, not just Democratic voters, but many of the people who voted for President Trump.
No, and
if you
I
disagree
voted
with
for
that,
President
and
Trump
if you
myself.
believe
I've been very open about that on the show, and I guess I'm looking for you to disavow that in a sense. I mean, you know, we don't disagree on politics, we don't disagree on much policy, but I think we have a lot of respect for each other. I don't look at you and say, oh, you're a Democrat, you obviously want the destruction of America. I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think you look at me and say, oh, you're a Republican, you're mean-spirited, so why is Tom Perez doing that?
No, I don't, but I do expect, you know, the Republican Party and the leadership of the Republican Party and the rank and file, people like yourself, to point out when things aren't right and when things smell wrong. And so if you can't do that, then you kind of have to own it, right? I mean, you have to own what the party that you vote for and you support, what they represent. And that's what this party has represented for a long time now. You know, Donald Trump is the most effective spokesperson for the Republican Party, but that agenda, that mean-spirited agenda, it's been around for a while. It was before Donald Trump, and it'll be here after Donald Trump.
Right, and again, that's a double standard, because that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to stand here and own what the leader of the Democratic Party said. I mean, he is the #1 face of the Democratic Party right now. He said Republicans don't give a snip about people. He, you know, attacked the credibility, the legitimacy of Donald Trump's winning the election. I mean, do you own that? Do you own that? Because that seems to be the platform of the Democratic Party, coming from the leader of the Democratic Party.
Liz, I'll make you a deal. If you disavow President Trump attacking President Obama for everything he's done over the last 8 years, then I'll disavow Tom Perez and his comments. How about that?
Well, not policy-wise. You know I don't agree with President Obama. I did disavow President Trump, actually.
But that's the point. Yeah.
I did disavow President Trump, actually, when he was attacking President Obama on the birth certificate thing. I thought that was way off. I did not think that was appropriate, and I did come to that. Joel, another thing that Tom Perez said, he said that Trump wasn't legitimate. He said he didn't win the election. Obviously, he's talking about the popular vote versus the Electoral College. But my question is, if Democrats claim that Trump is such a threat to our democracy, I mean, this is part of how our democratic constitutional republic works. We have the Electoral College as a system. To ignore that would be threatening, you know, the structure of our republic. Whether or not you agree with it, it is law. I mean, isn't that a threat from Tom Perez?
Sure, and look, and actually I didn't hear those comments, so I'm not even trying to play coy. But I will say this. Look, Donald Trump is the president. He is the rightfully elected president. But you can't lose sight on the fact that Hillary Clinton got 3 million more popular votes. And I think what that matters is it means that Donald Trump does not have a mandate and that Republicans do not have a mandate. This is a very close country.
Mandate.
This is a toss-up country. Yeah.
Right. We've talked about that before.
Yeah,
I hate the word mandate from either side of the aisle.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody going into Washington, D.C., even if miraculously, like Vladimir Putin did, they win the entirety of the popular vote or the Electoral College, they don't have a mandate at all. They're a steward of the Constitution, and that is their job. And then the final thing here, I guess, is Tom Perez's comments. He was talking about the resistance. He was talking about the opposition. And he said last week, we did resist. We were successful. Of course, Joel, he was talking about Trump care, Ryan care, Obamacare light, whatever you want to call it, that failure. But I don't think the Democrats realize here it didn't fail because of Democratic opposition. It failed because conservatives in the House Freedom Caucus didn't think it was conservative enough.
Well, I think it failed because of the unlikely coalition of Democrats who fought and showed some spine and showed some steel, and also because of, you're right, the Freedom Caucus. I mean, was there an interest group or was there a group of constituents that was behind that legislation? The president's supposed to be a uniter. He's supposed to bring people together. The only thing he seems to have brought people together to do is to oppose his signature legislation here in the first 90 days. So I agree with you. It was not a Democratic-only victory, but it certainly is an interesting coalition that President Trump has created there.
Right, and let me ask you finally just about Tom Perez, because it is remarkable to me after Hillary Clinton lost, the reasons that she lost, all the DNC chairs, you know, from Debbie Wasserman Schultz on forward, you know, how Donna Brazile, you know, her resignation, giving questions to Hillary Clinton during the town hall, all that scandal, all those resignations. Now the Democrats have Tom Perez and Keith Ellison in charge. Tom Perez as chair, Keith Ellison as deputy chair. These men, Joel, are not mainstream. They are not moderate. They are not reasonable. Keith Ellison has ties to, you know, Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam, rampant black nationalist, anti-Semitic groups. Tom Perez is a Clinton insider. You know, Hillary Clinton basically pushed for him to be the DNC chair. Is this who you want to lead the Democratic Party the next 4 years?
Yeah, I wouldn't associate myself with what you're saying about Chairman Perez or Congressman Ellison. They're both patriots and honorable men. They happen to disagree with you on their vision for the country, but I think they're good people. I'm comfortable with Chairman Perez, and I think he's off to a good start. Again, I'd probably, I probably wouldn't show that language to my grandmother or to my godson. Who's watching TV, but I'm comfortable with his leadership and the start that he's off to.
And you're comfortable with Keith Ellison's former ties to the Nation of Islam, his defense of Louis Farrakhan, the fact that he said that Louis Farrakhan was a role model for black youth, even though Louis Farrakhan is both anti-Semitic and black nationalist. You're comfortable with that?
Well, I'm comfortable with the fact that he's somebody who's fought for working families. I don't have to own every single thing that Keith Ellison has thought. There's people who I voted for who have cast votes that I disagree with or that I agree with, right? I mean, you're probably not going to get 100% of anything that you want. So I'm comfortable with Congressman Ellison. I've actually met him. He's a wonderful man, and he's somebody who I'm happy is a part of the leadership team.
Right, and to me, I guess this is the third example of a double standard from the Democrats, because it seems to me that when Democrats say that President Trump should be disqualified for his associations, with Steve Bannon, who Democrats claim is a white nationalist or alt-right, they should be equally troubled then by the associations the leadership of the Democratic Party, the deputy chair of the party, has with a black nationalist who said that 9/11 was an inside job. I mean, that to me is deeply troubling. But Joel, we're out of time. Thanks for being here today.